Before I go any further, I want to make something clear. What follows is more confronting than Monday, not because it's aggressive, but because it looks directly at the places we tend to negotiate with ourselves. If you're not in a place to sit with that right now, that's fine. And if you are, you're welcome to stay. There's a difference I've been paying attention to lately. The difference between what people commit to and what they're actually willing to carry. Not in words, not in intention, but in weight. I've noticed that most commitments don't fail because people change their minds. They fail because the cost shows up and the person who made the commitment isn't the same person who has to carry it. At first, commitment feels clean, clear, motivating, almost light. It's an idea, a direction, a declaration. But once you move past that initial clarity, something else starts to appear. Resistance, friction, that slow accumulation of weight. And that's usually where things start to bend. Not break, bend. Small compromises, tiny negotiations. Nothing dramatic. Just little adjustments that feel reasonable in the moment. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do less today. I'll make an exception. I don't say that as a judgment. I recognize it because I've lived it. What I've noticed is that most people don't struggle with the commitment itself. They struggle with consistency under pressure, because consistency doesn't feel like commitment. It feels like constraint. It feels repetitive, unglamorous, sometimes pointless, especially when there's no immediate feedback, no applause, no visible progress, just effort. An effort sustained over time asks something very specific of you. It asks for integrity. Not morality, not virtue, but alignment. It asks you to keep doing the same thing, even when the internal conversation starts shifting, even when motivation drops, even when the emotional reward disappears. That's where most commitments quietly collapse. Not because someone quit, but because they slowly stopped carrying the full weight. What I've learned, the hard way, is that willpower isn't the thing that carries you through that. Willpower spikes. It surges, it reacts. Integrity holds. Integrity is quieter. It doesn't argue, it doesn't negotiate, it doesn't need to be dramatic. It just shows up. Day after day, whether the day feels meaningful or not. I used to think drive was the most important trait a person could have, and drive matters. But drive without integrity burns hot and fast. It pushes, it accelerates, it tries to overpower resistance. Integrity doesn't overpower anything. It absorbs. It lets the weight exist without trying to escape it. And that difference changes everything. Because when that weight shows up, and it always does, you either carry it cleanly or you start looking for ways around it. That's where most people lose trust in themselves. Not all at once, but gradually. Each small compromise feels justified. Each exception feels harmless. Until one day, the commitment doesn't feel real anymore. Not because it wasn't sincere, but because it was never integrated. I've also noticed how often people confuse intensity with capacity. They feel capable when they're energized, when things are new, when the path feels open. But capacity isn't revealed at the beginning. It shows up later, when the novelty is gone, when the work feels heavy, when there's no obvious reason to continue, except that you said you would. That's when the real question appears. Not, do I still want this? But, am I willing to carry what this actually costs? Because the cost is rarely what we imagine at the start. It's not just time or effort. It's repetition, loneliness, sacrifice. It's showing up when you don't feel like yourself, when your energy is low, when your confidence wavers. That's the part most people don't factor in. And again, this isn't a criticism, it's an observation. I've noticed that the people who can carry long-term commitments aren't stronger, they're steadier. They don't rely on emotional peaks. They don't require constant affirmation. They build systems that hold them when motivation disappears. They don't ask every day whether they still believe in what they committed to. They already decided. And they let that decision remove the need for constant internal debate. That's not rigidity, it's belief. Because debating yourself every day is exhausting. Carrying something is heavy, but constantly renegotiating whether you'll carry it is heavier. What changed things for me was realizing that integrity and growth aren't separate processes. They're born together. You don't become more capable first and then act with integrity. You act with integrity and capability grows around it. They sustain each other. The more consistently I showed up, the less I needed to convince myself to keep going. The less convincing I needed, the quieter my mind became. And the quieter my mind became, the more capacity I had to actually carry the weight. This doesn't mean it stopped being heavy, it just stopped feeling chaotic. There's a difference between being crushed by weight and being trained by it. The same load can do both. The difference isn't the weight, though. It's whether you keep trying to escape it. I don't think most people fail because they're weak. I think they fail because they underestimate what commitment will demand of them once the excitement is gone. They commit to the idea, but not to the carrying. And when the carrying begins, they assume something has gone wrong. Nothing has gone wrong. That's just where the work actually starts. I'm still carrying my own weight, daily, imperfectly, without guarantees. What's changed isn't that it feels lighter. It's that I no longer try to put it down when it gets uncomfortable. I know what I committed to, and I know what it costs, so I carry it. Not heroically, not aggressively, just honestly. And that's enough to keep me moving.